In a striking turn of events, Elon Musk has expressed his disappointment with a significant domestic policy bill backed by former President Donald Trump, which he claims undermines the efforts of his recently established Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. During an exclusive interview with CBS News Sunday morning, Musk articulated his concerns regarding the financial implications of the legislation, which was passed by House Republicans last week. Musk's critique centers on the bill dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which aims to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts while adding substantial spending measures, including an increase in border security and new work requirements for Medicaid. According to the Congressional Budget Office, these tax provisions are projected to inflate the federal deficit by a staggering $3.8 trillion by 2034. Musk remarked, "I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decreases it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing." His comments underscore a significant ideological rift between the tech mogul and Trump, who has been a staunch advocate for the legislation. Musk's role in the early months of the Trump administration was marked by a push for austerity, with DOGE staffers working to streamline government operations and reduce wasteful spending. However, as Musk steps back from his government role, his criticism of the bill suggests a shift in priorities that could have ramifications for both his projects and the Republican agenda. "I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful," Musk quipped, "but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion." In the aftermath of Musk's remarks, Trump responded during a press event, acknowledging that while he is not entirely pleased with certain aspects of the bill, he remains enthusiastic about its potential to garner votes and achieve legislative goals. "We can't be cutting," Trump stated, emphasizing the necessity of balancing various provisions within the bill. His comments reflect a broader tension within the Republican Party, as several senators have also voiced concerns about the deficit increase tied to the proposed legislation. As the bill now heads to the Senate for further consideration, the implications of Musk's critique extend beyond political discourse. The tech entrepreneur's influence on the cryptocurrency market is notable, particularly concerning Dogecoin Doge, which has seen fluctuations in value in response to both Musk's public statements and broader market trends. Given Musk's prominent role in advocating for digital currencies, his discontent with the GOP's financial direction could signal uncertainty for Doge in the coming months. Looking ahead, the outcome of the Senate's deliberation on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act may significantly impact not only government spending and fiscal policy but also the cryptocurrency landscape, where Musk's opinions carry considerable weight. As the political landscape continues to evolve, observers will be keen to see whether Musk's criticisms resonate with other lawmakers and what this may mean for both the future of Doge and the Republican Party's fiscal strategies. In an era marked by heightened political tensions and evolving global dynamics, former President Donald Trump continues to dominate headlines with his unorthodox approach to governance, particularly in the realms of trade and international relations. Recently, Trump has made headlines not only for his controversial rhetoric but also for his ongoing battles with various public figures, including musicians and world leaders. One notable incident occurred when Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social to criticize Russian President Vladimir Putin, calling his actions "playing with fire." This rebuke followed a significant Russian airstrike on Kyiv and drew sharp reactions from observers who questioned Trump's credibility given his past statements about his relationship with Putin. As Trump proclaimed, "What Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia." Many noted the irony in his sudden condemnation of a leader he previously lauded. Critics like Bill Madden remarked that Trump had become a global laughingstock, while others pointed out that his claims of having a secret plan to resolve the Ukraine conflict in a day were becoming increasingly suspect. Simultaneously, Trump is facing backlash from the music community after targeting Bruce Springsteen, a prominent critic of his administration. Trump threatened to investigate Springsteen over alleged illegal campaign contributions. Despite the musician being a non-American citizen who did not participate in the 2024 election, In response, U2's Bono voiced his support for Springsteen, stating, "There's only one boss in America," and highlighting the absurdity of Trump's accusations. This public spat has not only galvanized support for Springsteen from fellow artists but has also drawn attention to the broader cultural and political implications of Trump's behavior. In the economic arena, Trump's erratic trade policies have provoked significant reactions. His recent announcement of a potential 50% tariff on European Union imports sent shockwaves through global markets. This move, intended to exert pressure during trade negotiations, was met with strong opposition from European leaders who urged for calm and emphasized the need for constructive dialogue. The threat of tariffs, particularly aimed at major corporations like Apple, has compounded fears of rising consumer prices and increased inflation. Trump's insistence that companies should manufacture in the U.S. to avoid these tariffs has left many businesses scrambling to adapt as they face substantial operational challenges in shifting production. In the backdrop of these developments, India has proposed steep cuts to U.S. tariffs as part of a broader trade deal, signaling a willingness to negotiate amid the tumultuous trade landscape. Simultaneously, the European Union is pushing for cooperation in sectors like semiconductors and steel to mitigate the impact of Trump's tariffs, aiming for a resolution that would benefit both parties without inciting further economic conflict. As the political landscape continues to evolve, Trump's actions will undoubtedly remain a focal point in discussions about trade, foreign policy, and cultural dynamics. Observers are closely watching how these tensions unfold and what they mean for future international relations and domestic policies. With ongoing negotiations and potential sanctions on the horizon, the coming weeks are likely to reveal whether Trump's approach will yield the intended results or further complicate an already volatile global environment. In a striking divergence from the Republican Party line, Elon Musk has publicly expressed his disappointment with a significant domestic policy bill championed by former President Donald Trump. This legislation, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, has drawn scrutiny not only for its fiscal implications but also for its potential impact on Musk's own initiatives, particularly those related to the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which he recently led. During an exclusive interview on CBS Sunday Morning, Musk articulated his concerns, stating, "I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decreases it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing." Musk's critique focuses on the bill's projected financial impact, which the Congressional Budget Office estimates will increase the deficit by a staggering $3.8 trillion by 2034. The legislation aims to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts while also ramping up spending on border security and implementing stricter requirements for Medicaid. In a candid remark, Musk noted, "I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion." This comment not only underscores his discontent but also hints at a broader philosophical debate regarding fiscal responsibility within the government. The former CEO of Tesla and SpaceX is no stranger to the political arena, having been a prominent figure in the early days of the Trump administration. His team at DOGE was instrumental in pushing for sweeping cuts across various government agencies, an approach that garnered both praise and criticism. However, Musk has indicated that he plans to step back from direct involvement in government initiatives, a shift that reflects a desire to focus on his business ventures while maintaining a critical eye on policy developments. The implications of Musk's comments are multifold. For the DOGE initiative, which aims to streamline government efficiency and reduce waste, the potential passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act could hinder progress. Critics argue that increased spending might lead to bureaucratic inefficiencies, counteracting the very objectives Musk had sought to achieve. Moreover, his public dissent could signify a rift between his vision for government reform and the fiscal strategies being pursued by Trump and his allies. As the legislation awaits further deliberation in the Senate, the political landscape remains charged. Trump's steadfast support for the bill juxtaposes Musk's critical stance, raising questions about the future alignment of these two influential figures. The outcome of this legislative battle will not only shape U.S. economic policy but also potentially redefine the relationship between major players in both the tech industry and political sphere. Looking forward, the intersection of technology and policy will remain a crucial area of focus. Musk's ongoing influence and the direction of government spending will likely continue to evolve, particularly as economic pressures mount and public scrutiny intensifies. The developments surrounding the One Big Beautiful Bill Act will be pivotal in determining not only the fiscal future of the United States but also the trajectory of innovative initiatives aimed at improving government efficiency. As such, observers in both the tech and political arenas will be watching closely to see how these dynamics unfold in the coming months. In an era marked by rapid technological advancement and globalization, nostalgia, a longing for an idealized past, has emerged as a potent force in shaping political and economic policy. The recent actions of U.S. President Donald Trump, particularly his implementation of sweeping tariffs, illustrate the dangers of allowing nostalgic sentiments to dictate economic strategy. As analysts and historians have noted, the desire to return to a bygone era often leads not only to economic disruption but also to broader societal consequences. On April 2, 2025, Trump announced a series of tariffs aimed at reviving American manufacturing, declaring, "We're bringing back an industry that was abandoned." This statement, however, was met with harsh reality as the stock market reacted with a dramatic downturn. While Trump championed the return of coal mining jobs, he failed to account for the complexities of the modern economy, where automation and global supply chains have fundamentally altered the landscape of labor and production. The ensuing market crash served as a stark reminder that policies based on nostalgia can have catastrophic effects. Historically, nations that have attempted to turn back the clock have often found themselves in dire straits. Harold and Marie-Louise James, in their analysis for Foreign Affairs, draw parallels between Trump's nostalgia-driven policies and historical precedents from China and Japan. In the 15th century, China's isolationist policies aimed at preserving its cultural integrity ultimately left it vulnerable to Western imperialism. Similarly, Japan's Sakoku period in the 17th century sought to shield its society from foreign influence but resulted in missed opportunities for growth and modernization. These historical examples highlight a recurring theme: nostalgia, when weaponized in political rhetoric, often undermines a nation's economic vitality. As Trump's tariffs began to take effect, they sparked a wave of uncertainty across global markets. The term taco trade, short for "Trump always chickens out," emerged on Wall Street, encapsulating the perception that Trump's aggressive tariff policies would ultimately be rolled back in response to market pressures. Indeed, days after announcing a 50% tariff on European imports, Trump delayed the implementation, seeking to buy time for negotiations. This pattern of imposing high tariffs only to retreat under pressure reflects a broader strategy that prioritizes short-term political gain over long-term economic stability. The ramifications of these tariffs extend beyond the stock market. Retail giants such as Macy's and Capri Holdings have already begun to revise their earnings forecasts downward, attributing the adjustments to the uncertainty surrounding Trump's trade policies. AutoZone executives have warned that the inflationary effects of tariffs will inevitably reach consumers, further complicating an already fragile economic landscape. The auto industry, a cornerstone of the American economy, is also feeling the strain, with companies like BMW and Volkswagen seeking tariff relief in exchange for investments in U.S. manufacturing. Moreover, the tariffs have sparked a cultural backlash, igniting fears of economic isolationism and nationalism in the United States. As communities grapple with the consequences of these policies, the nostalgic imagery of past industrial glory has become a rallying cry for those disillusioned by the rapid changes of globalization. However, as history has shown, this longing for an idealized past can morph into a dangerous ideology that stokes division and resentment. Looking forward, the challenge for policymakers is to strike a balance between addressing the legitimate concerns of displaced workers and embracing the realities of a globalized economy. The lessons of history caution against retreating into nostalgia as a policy framework. Instead, a forward-thinking approach that prioritizes innovation, adaptability, and inclusivity will be essential for navigating the complexities of the modern economic landscape. As the world continues to change, the allure of nostalgia may remain strong. But it is imperative that it does not dictate the future of economic policy. The stakes are high, and the road ahead will require careful navigation to avoid the pitfalls of the past. In a striking display of rhetoric, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt recently offered a controversial defense of former President Donald Trump's ongoing criticisms of Harvard University. During an appearance on Fox News with Sean Hannity, Leavitt asserted that Trump's remarks were part of a larger vision for American education, one that prioritizes trade skills over what she described as LGBTQ graduate majors. This statement has ignited a wave of backlash, raising questions about the administration's commitment to educational diversity and the implications of reallocating federal funding. Leavitt's comments came in the wake of Trump's assertion on social media that he was contemplating withdrawing $3 billion in federal grants from Harvard, which he labeled as anti-Semitic. He proposed redirecting these funds toward trade schools that he believes would better serve the American economy. "We need more electricians, plumbers," Leavitt stated, suggesting that vocational training should take precedence over what she characterized as less practical fields of study. Such sentiments resonate with Trump's base, which often criticizes elite educational institutions for perceived liberal biases. However, critics argue that Leavitt's defense misrepresents the broader implications of cutting funding to institutions like Harvard. Harvard stands to lose substantial financial resources critical for health research, potentially affecting advancements that could save lives. The administration's push against Harvard's funding is juxtaposed with its attacks on international student enrollment, which Trump claims would free up slots for American students. Yet the reality is that reduced financial aid could limit access for those very students, contradicting the administration's stated goals of supporting American education. This incident is not isolated. It reflects a pattern of rhetoric from Trump and his allies, who have repeatedly targeted elite universities in a bid to galvanize their political base. As the administration grapples with its budgetary proposals, including a contentious bill that aims to cut financial aid for various educational programs, the consequences of such policies could have long-lasting effects on the nation's educational landscape. Critics argue that the administration's efforts to reshape higher education reflect a broader agenda to consolidate power over academic institutions that do not align with their ideological views. Meanwhile, Trump's broader economic strategy continues to face scrutiny. His administration's trade policies have been met with skepticism, particularly as Wall Street analysts note a trend of Trump reversing course on tariff threats, leading to a new acronym among investors, TACO, which stands for Trump Always Chickens Out. The unpredictability of his trade decisions has prompted not only market reactions but also mockery from foreign observers who view the U.S. president's threats as bluster rather than substantive policy. As the political landscape unfolds, the interplay between education, trade, and the administration's funding priorities will remain a contentious issue. The upcoming elections will likely see these themes at the forefront as both parties navigate the complex terrain of voter sentiment around economic and educational reforms. With Trump's penchant for provocative statements and policies, it is clear that debates over the future of American education, particularly in the context of vocational training versus traditional academia, will continue to polarize the nation. Looking ahead, the administration's approach to education and trade will be closely watched, with potential ramifications for both the economy and the political fortunes of Trump and his allies. The resolution of these issues may redefine not only the educational landscape but also the very fabric of American society as it grapples with the challenges of modern economic demands and the values underpinning its educational institutions. In a strategic pivot that underscores the complexities of modern diplomacy, President Donald Trump is reinforcing his preference for economic deals with allies over engaging in traditional diplomatic efforts with adversaries. This approach, highlighted during his recent trip to the Middle East, is reflective of a broader trend in his foreign policy that prioritizes transactional relationships while sidestepping the deeper conflicts that often characterize international relations. During his visit to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, Trump celebrated significant business agreements, declaring a shift in the Middle East towards commerce, not chaos. He emphasized that these nations were now defined by economic collaboration rather than conflict, stating where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. This rhetoric aligns with Trump's long-standing self-image as a master deal-maker, a persona that political analysts like Stephen Walt attribute to his comfort in negotiating business arrangements rather than navigating the intricate dynamics of geopolitical rivalry. However, Trump's approach raises critical questions about the effectiveness of this strategy in addressing ongoing conflicts, particularly in regions like Ukraine and Gaza. While he has initiated agreements such as a recent minerals deal with Ukraine, experts caution that these economic measures alone cannot resolve deeply entrenched political disputes. Jeffrey Pyatt, a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, noted that a single business deal cannot address the complexities of a war rooted in the ambitions of Russian President Vladimir Putin. In contrast, Trump's handling of the humanitarian crises in Gaza and the escalating violence between Israel and Hamas has been notably sparse. Analysts point out that his administration often overlooks the severe civilian toll in these conflicts, focusing instead on potential economic opportunities such as the controversial idea of the U.S. taking control of Gaza for development purposes. The skepticism surrounding Trump's foreign policy is further compounded by concerns regarding his reliance on inexperienced advisors. For instance, Steve Witkoff, a close associate with no prior diplomatic experience, has been tasked with managing intricate negotiations involving Iran's nuclear program and the Gaza ceasefire. Critics like Stephen Cook from the Council on Foreign Relations warn that Trump's trust in Witkoff may lead to miscalculations, particularly in high-stakes negotiations where nuanced diplomacy is crucial. Complicating matters is the ongoing tension with Israel as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presses for military action against Iran, potentially undermining Trump's diplomatic efforts. The Israeli government remains wary of any agreements that allow Iran to maintain its nuclear capabilities, fearing that Trump's eagerness for a deal could come at the expense of Israel's security. Netanyahu's position highlights a fundamental divide in U.S.-Israeli relations, where military options are still viewed as a viable solution to perceived threats, contrasting sharply with Trump's transactional approach. As Trump navigates these turbulent waters, he faces mounting criticism for his reluctance to engage meaningfully with adversaries. Both Stephen Walt and Jeffrey Pyatt express concern that by withdrawing from diplomatic engagement in volatile regions, the U.S. risks ceding influence to rival powers and failing to leverage its position to foster long-term stability. In conclusion, Trump's foreign policy, characterized by a preference for economic agreements over diplomatic engagement, raises critical questions about its effectiveness in resolving complex international conflicts. As he continues to navigate the intricate dynamics of global politics, especially with adversaries like Iran and in regions rife with strife such as Ukraine and Gaza, the sustainability of his transactional approach will be tested. Observers will be keenly watching how these developments unfold and whether the U.S. can redefine its role on the world stage amid growing skepticism and geopolitical uncertainty.